In meeting with Brother Boniface on this occasion, I asked him what message he would give to the world today, had he the opportunity.
Greetings, Brother Boniface.
Greetings to you both.
Greetings, Brother Boniface.
I trust you can hear.
Well, if you'll speak as loud as you can, then we'll make it all the better, but we can hear all right.
I was contemplating what I should discuss with you, but on reflection, I think perhaps it might be a good idea if you have any questions which I might be able to answer.
Well, there's one, and that is that people write to us and they say that they like to hear about life in the spirit world, so on and so forth. Now, supposing, and it may well be that the opportunity will come that we shall be able to broadcast to the world. We hope so, at any rate. A pacific message that would enlighten people and start them, shall we say, on a new way of life, on a new road through life, a new perception of life, a new understanding of life. At the moment, so many people hide behind orthodox religion and all that it means to them. And I know that you have enlightened us many times about this. But can I put it this way? What message would you give to the world had you the opportunity today?
This question which you put to me on behalf of the world is a question which in itself is not an easy one to answer, and yet in a sense, in its very essence, the answer is full of simplicity, because the answer that one might give can truly be answered in a few sentences, and yet at the same time there are so many various aspects, so many varied points that ought to be discussed in detail, that I think I can only say, for this moment at least, that those in your world who are seeking the answer must in themselves first realize that within themselves is that power which makes it possible to overcome all things. In other words, if one is to realize truth, to understand it, to accept it, and truly find in consequence the path of true spiritual progression, one must accept the fact, and it is a fact, that each person individually is truly a spiritual being in the making. In essence, he is of the spirit, indestructible, that which is truly the man is in itself that part which is of God, because each and every soul has within himself the power to overcome all things which are detrimental to the spiritual growth. Every soul has, though he may not recognize it or understand it, has within himself the opportunity and the power to evolve, to develop in such a spiritual way and in such a spiritual sense that all the ills, all the conditions of earth which cause anxiety, which bring in their wake troubles, sickness, strife, intolerance, indeed all the ills of your world could be banished if individually and collectively man would recognize his spiritual oneness with the divine. If he could realize that he is linked to every soul and every living thing that draws breath in your world, he is part of the creation. He is part of the great brotherhood of man, that he shares the same powers and in a sense also the same problems and difficulties, and yet he could, by effort, by the using of the power of the self within, overcome all the manifold ills to which he is wont. Man himself, through ignorance and foolishness over centuries of time, has created the havoc, has created the unhappiness, has created all the manifold ills to which he is heir to. Man cannot or does not seem to realize that your world could be a world of spiritual achievement and attainment. It could be a condition of life so far removed from that which man inherits today. Man is always railing against God. He is always blaming others for his unhappiness, or the state of his life, or the state of the world in which he finds himself. Yet man himself creates all that causes such pain and such suffering. If only man could realize that your world is as much a part of ours as ours is of yours, that in a sense all worlds are one. Man has, for generations of time, considered, when he has considered at all, that the realms of the spirit are far removed, that there is this heaven, and to some this hell, and to others this form of purgatory, or this state of being to which he may, or thinks he will, eventually evolve to or go to. But all the time it is within you and around and about you. Christ himself knew of this. All the great masters, all the great teachers preached it in some form or other. But the mystery which still surrounds to so many this truth need not be the mystery that it has become. Man has created the uncertainty and the mystery of life. When man first came into being, as far as we can tell, as far as we know, he entered into a state of being which in itself was far removed from that which you find today. Man himself created gradually various conditions of life which changed according to man's thoughts, man's actions. And he brought unto himself all that you see and all that you witness and experience of that which you term evil. And yet I would not have you think that there is not even in this what you may term evil not some good. It has been said that out of evil cometh good. And I think we must accept this idea or this fact, that though we may regret much that is considered evil or bad, that from it we gain knowledge and experience. We should not in a sense avoid certain things which may happen or transpire, which cause pain. We learn to some extent through pain and suffering. If it were not for the black, we could not appreciate the white. We need, in a sense, perhaps in our evolution, these differences, and yet though we regret them, we must see them as they truly are, faults within ourselves, conditions that we have brought into being through our foolishness and our ignorance, and we should profit and learn by our mistakes, and we should grow in spiritual stature and grace when once we learn to overcome the worser self. But I do say this to those who are doubting, to those who fear, to those who are uncertain. Above all things, be not afraid. There are so many different forms of fear. Indeed, we look into your world and we are appalled when we see the fear in men's hearts. And above all, perhaps we are most appalled by man's fear of God, because this is something which has been instilled over centuries of time by foolish and ignorant men who have felt in their own fashion or in their own way that God was to be feared. God is love, and yet vast numbers of peoples of religious orders and denominations walk and tread in fear, and they preach fear, and its varying ways and means that they have used and still may use and do to frighten men into accepting often their own particular creed or dogma, which to them has become the essential part of their life, which in their foolishness and ignorance they accept as the law of God, and in often so doing escape, so they think, from the things of the world. But the point is this, children, there is only one way to truly find God. There is only one way to truly be called a son of God. There is only one way to find peace and tranquility of mind and of spirit, and that is to have no fear, but to face the daily ills of life, realizing that they are there, they are a challenge, that they can be changed and altered by man if he will think and act spiritually in accordance with the power that is within him and the right that is his to overcome. For there is much that man himself can do, and if he has the knowledge and the realization of the power and the love of the Spirit and the communicating possibilities of those who come from this realm, to link with him, to help him, and to strengthen him and to guide him, all things are truly possible. The foundation of all truth has been that man himself is indestructible, that he is by his very nature a spiritual being, that the earth and all that it entails and all that it holds is in a sense but the training ground, the birthplace through which man must travel to befit himself for the greater world of experience and life that lies outside yours. In other words, I think it is vital and important for man to realize that there is nothing that is impossible if he has within himself the real assurance and the certainty that he truly is of God, that he has within himself the powers of the Spirit which make all things possible, that all things can be overcome, and that he can in himself come forth, as it were, out of the darkness, truly into the light, and truly in consequence find a peace, as Christ said, that the world of flesh cannot give. Christ said that by faith he can remove mountains. For these things that I do, ye shall do in greater measure. And yet man, in spite of all his religious background and upbringing, in spite of his so-called knowledge, in spite of his adhering, as oft times he says he does, to the Christ, how far removed he is from repeating and doing the things that Christ did. Because man is full of fear, because man has doubts and uncertainties within himself, because he has not been taught and shown the path truly in the way, because he has not followed in simplicity and in love the Christ and the great ones who in themselves were Christs and teachers and leaders of spiritual grace. Man is afraid, full of fear, full of doubts, full of uncertainties, striving so often for the things which within himself he is ever conscious of being but baubles, as it were, which must pass from him. Man clings to the things of the earth and the things that he knows of, and is afeard of the things that may yet be or may yet come. Man is afraid to face truth. Man has always been afraid to face truth. Even the disciples, even those who crowded round the Christ in his day and age and listened to his words of wisdom and of love and saw for themselves the proof of his power, even so many were afeard, many doubted, many were uncertain, and indeed there were many who resented. So it is in your world today. In spite of the revelation of the power of the Holy Spirit and the manifestation of the love of the Spirit and the communion that follows and all that takes place, there are those, especially those in high places, for it is very seldom the ordinary, as you term it, person. It is very rarely the simple and the uneducated. It is very rarely those who are small, as it were, in stature in the world of position and power that refuse. But those in high places are blinded by their very power of material things to see the beauty and the grace and the simplicity of the things that are of the Spirit. Oft times they consider that they know the answers. Oft times they consider that because of their position and their background and their education and their position in life, that they are better able to judge. And yet one thinks back to the teachings of the Master, that we should be as little children if we are to enter the kingdom of God. What does he mean by that? He does not mean it altogether only in the sense that is generally accepted, but he means it that we must be within ourselves like children, that we should accept, and we should have faith, and that we should trust, and we should follow the teachings and the instructions that are given us. There is so much doubt, so much fear in the hearts of men. They feel quite often that these things that we preach, these things that we teach, are not for them. They are more concerned, as they term it, that their feet should be planted firmly on the ground. And yet that very ground upon which they plant their feet, and the very feet that are planted thereon, they know shall pass away, that it shall become as insignificant in time itself, that they shall cease to exist in it and be part of it. For 60 years or 10, less or more, they may dwell in your world and walk its paths, and partake of its so-called joys. But when it comes to facing the reality of the spirit, of what transpires when so-called death takes place, when no longer they are, or so they think, so often it matters not to them, or if it matters, they are afeard and will discuss it not or think not of it, even to the very end of their days. And even when they do, oft times they take unto themselves some religion, which gives them some kind of peace of mind, or so they think, or it gives to them, shall we say, some feeling that all will possibly be well. But there is no certainty, there's no surety, there's no real happiness, no real peace of mind in the vast majority who believe and accept, oft times without question, oft times without serious thinking, oft times without changing one iota, as it were, in their lives. One point which often is forgotten is that to be truly of the Spirit means that you must act, not just think, not just give lip service, not just chant or sing the familiar hymns. How often have we been to services? How often have we listened to the oft-repeated word? How often have we listened to that which has no substance, because it is given forth with no true feeling or emotion, without any sense of reality, without any sense of the truth often underlying that which is given forth? We are not concerned with lip service. We are not concerned with those who kneel and bow the head. We are concerned with those who will act upon truth and serve truth and be of truth and truly be brothers in harmony and in love, who will work at all times to do the things that are of God. We do not come to condemn, though sometimes it may seem so. We come with great love and great understanding and great sympathy and full of charity. But it is grievous to us when we see so many who profess so much and do and are so little. And yet there is great opportunity for all humanity to change the whole way of life. There is so much in the world that is good, and so much that can be strengthened by good thoughts and good acts. There is so much that could be. It could truly be your world a paradise. And yet man himself, in his foolishness, in his ignorance, in his selfishness, has created a condition of life which, as you know, is so appalling. There are here and there souls who have seen the illumination of the Spirit and have acted upon it and strive. They are not necessarily, of course, always what you term spiritualists. I would not even say that it is necessary to be a spiritualist as such. We are as disappointed with the spiritualists quite often as we are with others who profess to know truth. There are very few in your world who know truth, who will act upon it and do the things which are expected of them. There are very few who will sacrifice themselves, who give up much that they consider still important for the furtherance of good, for the furtherance of truth and illumination of the Spirit. for the welfare of man, but there are exceptions. We are concerned not with churches and with temples. We are not concerned with buildings. We are concerned with people. We are concerned with the children of the earth, irrespective of their race or their color or their so-called class. We know that all God's children are one in spirit, even though they may in a sense be separated through not understanding and not realizing and not having yet found that oneness which surely must come when truth is prevalent, when truth is all around and about you and understood and accepted. There is so much ignorance in your world. It is this ignorance of the things that are important that causes distress. Indeed, it is the cause of all your ills, mental and physical, in your world. We come bearing aloft the torch of truth. How much of its illumination you shall see depends on yourselves. But each one has a duty to the other. For where one suffers, so does the other. Though oft times it has not seemed so, but it is so. For though the suffering may not be in your world, oft times the suffering can be in this world. The sufferings of remorse, the feeling of having not done that which thou shouldst have done, the realization that one has succeeded, oft times materially, often at the expense of others, less fortunate in a sense, and yet often the less fortunate ones are the ones who reap the rewards of the Spirit. As I've said, it is oft times the simple. It is oft times those who are most despised who reach the heights in the realm of the Spirit. Power, position, and all the things which man seeks of the earth surely pass away. But that which he is, what he has become, remains. What is important is what he shall be. And if that can be while yet on earth, it is a good thing. For to live and to work in harmony with the realms of the Spirit, and to take note of the things of the Spirit that are given to you by the so-called dead who are very much alive. This is spiritual progress. This is working in harmony and in love, in true brotherhood. This is creating the world of the Spirit and changing the world of the flesh. You who are of flesh are of the Spirit. Your spiritual achievement and attainment will depend on how you yourselves follow the path that is set you. Whatever that path may be, no matter how hard or difficult, if you tread it firmly and surely, with the realization of the love of God and the brotherhood of man and the power of the Spirit that is within you and all around you, you cannot fail. You may sometimes seem to fail. But even if you have tried and sometimes erred and failed, the fact that you've made the effort, that in itself is sufficient. If every soul in your world made the effort to do that which is of God, your world could be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and your whole lives could truly be brought into the full light of wisdom and of truth and of peace and of happiness. And that which is unseen could be seen. And that power which so often is spoken about and rarely demonstrated would become a normal, natural thing. In other words, the power of the Spirit would overwhelm mankind, and all goodness would come forth, and all life would in consequence become truly a life of spiritual awareness and consciousness, and all peace would reign, and all the peoples of the earth would truly be one in love and in harmony. I say unto all those who seek, go forth, seeking truth, knowing that we who come to you will at all times help you. We will at all times do that which is within our power, but it must first come from you. Open up the consciousness of yourselves to these things, that we may enter in, that truly you shall be blessed in consequence, and find that peace which you so desire. I must go, but my peace I leave with you, children. Farewell.
Thank you, Brother Boniface,
very much.
who will certainly make good use of that wonderful message you gave to us.
I have to go now, but I'll see you for Christmas, shall I?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that.